me that green light. Give me that green light, Maine. Give me that green light. Give me that green light, Maine. Give me that green light. Give me that green light, Maine. Give me that green light. Give me that green light, Maine.
This episode of Greenlight Maine is being brought to you by Focus Maine, a catalyst to grow select signature industries.
Good morning. Welcome to Greenlight Maine. I'm your host, Julene Gervais. In this series, there are 26 entrepreneurs bringing innovation and insight to Maine like never before. One of them will win $100,000. The others may gain from the exposure on the show, and we've had some major success stories that far exceed the cash prize. Today's lineup features two businesses that I'm sure will hit home for many of you, Boots2Roots and MaineWorks. Later, our Sunday morning conversation is with Focus Maine and all they're doing for the state. But first, let's get to know today's judges a little bit. Welcome, Kim Hamilton from Focus Maine.
Thank you very much. I'm Kim Hamilton. I'm the president of Focus Maine. We work in three signature sectors, agriculture, aquaculture, and biopharmaceuticals, to grow 20,000 jobs in the state over the next decade. And we also work on workforce issues in those sectors as well.
Perfect. And next up, welcome Shirar Patterson.
Thank you. I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Eastern Maine, and we're answering the community's call to action by leading Opportunity 2028, which is an initiative to move 10,000 people out of poverty, increase early literacy rates for youth, and to eliminate deaths from substance use disorder over the next 10 years.
Sounds like a great plan. And finally, welcome Marianne Cowan.
Thanks very much. I'm Marianne Cowan from the Bates College Center for Purposeful Work, where we have a unique approach to preparing students for aligning their values and interests and skills with the work that they do in and out of the classroom and preparing them for success in their future careers.
Awesome. Great panel today. We're going to talk to you in just a couple minutes, but first it's time to introduce our first company, which is Boots2Roots. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
You are retired from the military. You have been doing this for 3 years, helping people for free in the state of Maine.
I have. The founder of Boots2Roots gave me a call. I used to fly with him in the Air Force, and he told me about the concept of Boots2Roots, and he asked me to be on his board. And when I said, when's the first board meeting, he said we ought to have one of those. And he and his co-founder were working full-time jobs. They told me about Boots2Roots, and I thought it was that important that it needs to be built. And so I said, I'll build it. Let's do this.
So very important. Well, welcome to Greenlight Maine. Whenever you're ready, you look right at the judges and go for it.
Great. Thank you. If you ask a Maine business owner what his or her biggest concern is, the majority will say finding and retaining good employees. If you ask a military member what his or her biggest concern is about leaving the military, and the majority will say finding meaningful and good-paying job. Boots2Roots is a Maine-based nonprofit that is preparing active duty military members and their families to successfully transition from active duty military service to living and working in Maine. Our program focuses on employment and community integration built on trusted networking relationships with two primary goals: that these soon-to-be veterans, we call them teammates, will find good-paying, meaningful employment within 2 months of arriving in Maine, and that they'll remain in their first post-military job for at least 1 year. And these goals were derived from gaps that we identified through extensive research, beginning with personal experience. For example, Boots2Roots' founder retired as a colonel after 23 years in the Air Force. This is a highly educated, experienced, decorated senior military leader and Maine native who separated from service, came home to Maine, and struggled to find meaningful work with good pay. And at one point, he thought he might end up homeless. Boots2Roots provides a solution to this problem. For the past 3 years, we've worked with over 75 teammates with a consistent employment rate of 88% within 2 months of arriving in Maine, and an 85% first-year retention rate. Boots2Roots is making a tremendous impact throughout the state of Maine. And we're doing this through targeted fundraising efforts and investment from key partner companies like Dead River Company and Bath Iron Works. These key partner companies not only hire our teammates, but they've invested in us financially because they see the value that Boots2Roots brings to address their problem of finding and keeping good employees. This demonstrated need continues to outpace our current capacity, and $100,000 will increase our capacity by allowing us to hire a much-needed second employee, by allowing us to accelerate our timeline towards sustainability, by being able to contribute more and support Maine businesses, and also to facilitate our efforts to try to work towards being able to proactively recruit veterans to Maine. By reaching these milestones, Boots2Roots will be in a stronger position to help Maine attract highly reliable and trainable new veteran employees. Even without active recruiting, 60% of our teammates are not native Mainers. They have school-age kids and they want to live and work in Maine. So, investing in Boots2Roots is the right thing to do for Maine's newest veterans. It is the smart thing to do for Maine's future. And with your support, we can get there. And I look forward to entertaining any of your questions.
Great job. How many families have you helped so far?
Over 75. Over 75 who are still working with us. So some of those families we are helping in transition right now. Some of them in their first year of employment, and some of them are past their first year of employment. And then we've worked with 25 other people who either we did extensive work with them, but they decided not to come to Maine, couldn't find a job for whatever reason, extended the military. So there's a bunch of different sort of reasons there.
Awesome, great organization. Okay, let's start off the questions with Kim.
Thanks, Jen, for a great presentation, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I had a question about the supply side, the teammate work that you're doing. So the demand in Maine is so great. How are you going to build that pipeline? What does it look like, and how do you build that network?
People have to hear about us. Even the state of Maine does not know who is planning to come to Maine from active duty. On a strategic level, we're working on that on the side. I've engaged with them last year. I have another meeting with the Maine Bureau of Veteran Services next week. So right now, it's social media, it's word of mouth, it's testimonials.
So a statewide reach is a challenge in a state like Maine. And I'm curious, who are you partnering with to be able to kind of reach the state and be able to place these folks all over?
Well, we're working on building relationships with Maine businesses throughout the state. And one of the reasons, I drove 7,000 miles around the state when we first started this, doing research, so I knew what the landscape was and who the players were. And there's a huge support network through Department of Labor and a bunch of other organizations that continue to connect us. Maine business played a big role. Things like this play a big role. And our word has gotten out tremendously in the last 3 years.
Marianne.
Great presentation. Thanks very much. How are you marketing toward military members from away from Maine to convince them to come and live and work here?
And a real quick answer.
So right now, we're not actively recruiting. Right now, we're meeting the need of people transitioning here, and we're working with them up to a year before they come back so that we can prepare them early so that they can hit the ground running within that 2 months. We hope to eventually get to the point where we can do proactive recruiting.
Thank you for all of this and all that you're doing for the great state of Maine. All right, so we need to take a quick break, but don't go away because Kim from Focus Maine is going to tell us all that they're doing to help our state. Don't go away.
I truly believe that if you're gonna do something better, you gotta start by innovating. Think about how to solve for a customer problem in a way that's quicker, different, and more customer-centric. The bank's promise has been fundamentally the same from the beginning till now, and that's ensuring that all that we do is making the lives of our employees, our customers, and the communities better. And it's their better, not what's defined as our better.
At Sutherland Weston, it's not just about being persuasive, it's about being prepared. Too many agencies get excited about how to gain attention, but not what happens next. We know what happens next is really the important part. That's why we've had 15 years of continuous growth. As a responsive, problem-solving, creative partner, one who's not afraid of accountability, responsibility, or what happens next. Looking for a creative strategic partner? Let's talk.
Welcome back to Greenlight Maine. Our Sunday morning conversation is with Focus Maine, and joining me now is Kim. Thank you so much for being here and talking about Focus Maine.
Thanks, Julene. It's great to be here.
For our folks at home, can you just explain to them real quick what it is that Focus Maine does?
Sure. So we are all about jobs. We're focused on growing 20,000 new jobs in the Maine economy in 3 sectors, thus focused. Agriculture and aquaculture, which is our food economy, and biopharmaceuticals.
So great. So how do you do this? Do you have partners?
Yeah, so this is really critical to the way we do our work. We had an early decision about our business model, just like the businesses here, and we decided that we could go further faster by working with partners. So we work with 8 real high capacity partners here in Maine to make sure we're tapping into the best that Maine has to offer and the strength that already exists.
Nice. Is it public sector, private sector?
Through public sector, other nonprofits in the space that are working in agriculture, aquaculture, and in the life sciences and biopharma space.
Perfect. And you also have a very robust internship program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So this summer we have 600 interns working in 40 different companies.
Wow.
In Portland, Augusta, Bangor, and we're looking at how we expand that going forward. And our goal here is to make sure we create a lifelong connection to Maine. So these students are not only getting professional training, but they're also getting an opportunity to explore Maine's quality of life through kayak trips or hike up Mount Batty. And we're also looking at how do we introduce them to other opportunities in Maine. So when it's time for them to make their decision about where they're going to build their career, we want Maine to be at the top of their list.
Perfect. Now, are they paid interns?
So we have specific criteria. These are paid internships. They have to be meaningful projects. Okay. Like I said, we're working with great corporate partners across the state. And over 3 years, we will have had more than 1,200 interns participate in this. So we're really starting to see internships grow as a way to attract and retain students here in Maine.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so do you track to see how many of them actually get hired by Maine companies after their internship?
So there's a critical data point, which is the conversion rate. So we are working with our partners to understand what that looks like. But, it's not just about are they accepting the positions today, which we very much hope they will. It's also about can we make sure that Maine stays on their list when they're thinking about, their second career and their third career, because we know young people choose many different, have many different careers in their lifetime.
Nice, perfect organization for Maine. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Sure. Okay, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to hear from MaineWorks, so don't go away.
Furniture for Greenlight, Maine is provided by Thomas Mosier Furniture, handmade American furniture since 1972.
Reaching new customers online is hard. You've tried Facebook, Google Ads, email. You even built a website 10 years ago. You're way too busy to focus on digital marketing, and you're not getting results.
At Dream Local Digital, that's what we do. We've helped businesses nationwide grow with online marketing. We're the experts. Let us help you.
We're very proud of the product we make and the way that we make it. The most important features of our original dog vest are in its design. Traditional lenders, they steer away from unproven track records.
In you come. Hold up.
CEI gave us the opportunity to build a track record, show that our future path will be more solid than our past.
Welcome back to Greenlight Maine. Our second company is MaineWorks. Welcome, Margo Walsh. And congratulations, your video was just recently shown at the governor's first opioid summit. What was that like?
Oh, it was so wonderful. First of all, there were 1,000 people there, which was incredible to demonstrate the outpouring of support for this issue within the state of Maine. So it was just great.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Greenlight Maine.
You.
And whenever you're ready, look right at the judges and have fun.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Margo Walsh, and I own an employment company in Portland, Maine called MaineWorks. We are a B Corp staffing company, and we are so excited to be part of this burgeoning B Corp community, which is a balance between working with for-profit companies with social impact. And so we are so excited to be the first B Corp in Maine. We've actually just worked really tirelessly with the state of Maine to pass B Corp legislation in the state of Maine, along with other great companies that are B Corps in Maine are Coffee by Design and Revision Energy. So all of those companies are vetted thoroughly by B Corporation to make sure that we do what we say we do. So we were the first B Corp in the state of Maine, and when I first started MaineWorks, my business model was to only hire convicted felons, which is a pretty big deal because those guys are marginalized and find it difficult to move back into society. And then along came the opioid crisis. So MaineWorks has been working in a dual track of helping people in recovery from substance use disorder and reentry from jail and prison. And we provide jobs in the construction industry, mostly in the greater Portland area at this time, although we've just started to expand to southern Maine and have been invited to expand into the state of New Hampshire, which is very exciting. And how we do that is people will apply to MaineWorks coming out of all of those different marginalized or places where they have been facing the barriers. And they come to MaineWorks and they fill out an application. And then every single morning, we end up in a big circle in the parking lot at MaineWorks in Portland. And the question is, first of all, introduce yourself with your first and last name and who you are, where are you from, where are you living, are you in a safe place, and what's one goal for yourself, short term and long term, and what do you need right now? And so we go around the circle and everybody does that introduction, and then when they state their need, whether it's eye care, dental care, health care, access to sober living, we'll meet them exactly there on the same day. Because a lot of places where you have to apply for help, the runway is really long, and by that time you've lost that person and lost that opportunity. So then they go off from the morning circle to a day of work and economic viability, and they're fully employed by MaineWorks. They're not a transient day labor. That's the other staffing models usually involve day-to-day work where they are paid out at the end of the day. We have gone so far as to fully employ these guys, and we're actually just developing our first benefits package, which will include paid time off and access to our wonderful private healthcare company, and at the very least, we'll help everybody navigate access to MaineCare if they're eligible. So we're really excited to be doing well and providing great outcomes for people. They usually get hired by our private construction clients, and the results for MaineWorks have been fantastic. As a company, we're doing well. We started out in 2011 with our revenue of $215,000, and I was so excited about that. As a single mom, head of household, I thought that was an unbelievable success. But this year, we're on target, 7 years on, to be at a $3 million revenue. So we could continue to do really well as a private company, self-sustained, providing employment for people in Portland, Maine, and maybe southern Maine. With the money from Greenlight Maine, we would provide more jobs for people coming from these backgrounds in the state of Maine, in northern New England, and it is definitely a national model. We've been invited to present this model in many states, and that's the type of work we would do if we were to receive this money from Greenlight Maine. And I'd like to thank you all so much for your interest.
Great, thank you, Margo. First question, Kim.
Thank you, Margo.
Thanks, Kim.
I'm very interested in how you measure success because you've got sort of dual customers, right? Where you place?
The way we measure success is retention. So if someone can stay, because again, the obstacles facing these people are usually the big daunting things like homelessness, not sure where they're eating. There's a lot of those sorts of barriers. So if someone can show up for 2 weeks, that's a success.
Shirar.
So the $100,000 will create more jobs.
Yes.
Do you have any idea of, basically how many jobs you're creating now and then how many more that might create?
So today, working in Portland, in the greater Portland area, we have about 50 guys, which will morph up to about 75 to 100 guys by the end of the year. And this is really the time of year when our business hits its stride. And so we would say that on an average, we will have 120 people working every single day if we were invited to expand. Otherwise, we're doing perfectly fine as we are, but I think there's a huge opportunity.
And Marianne.
Thanks very much, Margo, for your presentation. The construction industry is where your workers are. Is there any thought of expanding to other industries?
Absolutely. And I started because as a felon employment company back in the early days, working with the young men out of the Cumberland County Jail, the construction sites were judgment-free, and no one really, they're merit-based. So now that we've grown and changed and we actually have quite a great reputation throughout the state of Maine, we have people in other industries and also derivative of the construction industry, like window manufacturing or gutter installation. All of those types of companies are now looking to us as the restaurant industry is the next big frontier. My dear friend Fred Forsley has people working at the Inn on Peaks Island, and so that's great, especially as we have more women coming our way.
All right, well, great job, great
you.
pitch. And we need to take a quick break, but don't go away because when we come back, we're going to hear from our judges. Stay with us.
Broadcast facilities are provided by Husson University's NESCOM, the New England School of Communications.
You know, I believe in business today there are too many experts and not enough expertise. I think there are too many promises and not enough follow-through. Those things used to be the norm, but now they're the exception. At Sutherland Weston, we work hard every day to be that exception. We've had 15 years of continuous growth, and I'm proud of that. I think if your business is looking for a creative, responsive, problem-solving partner, if you're looking for the exception, I think we should talk.
We're honored to be Greenlight Maine CPA firm sponsor. Maine is home to a range of businesses, from startups that you might see on this program to closely held businesses and organizations that operate internationally. ARB's advisors are providing savvy solutions to complex issues for sophisticated and growing businesses of any size across Maine and throughout New England. And we're doing it the way you want Mainers to, guided by our local, sensible values.
Albin, Randall, and Bennett is a proud sponsor of Greenlight Maine.
You may do all the networking in the world, but if you don't have a way to stay in touch with people you meet, they'll forget about you. If you send a monthly e-newsletter, then you'll stay in touch with your contacts and prospects. They'll remember you when they're ready to buy what you have to sell. Otherwise, your networking efforts will be lost because people won't remember you or what you had to offer.
Welcome back to Greenlight Maine. It's time to hear from our judges, and this one touched both our minds and our hearts. You guys, it's always tough, but today is particularly tough. So let's kick it off with Boots2Roots. Kim, what'd you think?
Such a passionate vision. I love they're putting the pieces in place, they have an expansion plan, and they really helped reframe how I think about that issue in our community.
That's right. She's been doing this for free for 3 years. They've helped 75 families have placement in jobs.
Right. Lots of great partnerships and connections throughout the state and even outside of the state of Maine that can help place their new teammates.
Yeah, I love the personal connection and the fact that they really get to know a military member and the family and the needs and the passions and the skills that someone would bring to the state of Maine. So I love that personal connection.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Building such a network too. You guys learned so much off camera, talking about the placements that they've already made, and there's already this job network going on at places like Bath Iron Works and Dead River Company.
Right. Right.
All right, let's switch gears. How about Maine Works?
Also incredibly powerful. I love that they're really clear about the segments they play in, both in terms of who they're working with and who their customers are.
Yeah, I think that there's a great opportunity for growth and placing people who are in serious need in some very promising markets and occupations.
Right, and I think for either one of these companies that the endorsement and by winning this is going to help them to grow so much, and so it's really tough.
It is a tough choice.
Very tough choice. Okay, so let's fast forward ahead. If they were to make it to the finals, what would you like to see from them?
So from Maine Works, I'd like to know a little bit more about their expansion plan and what that looks like. And for Boots2Roots, I'd really be interested in kind of where do they want to be in the next 3 years? So a little bit more of a strategy, a strategic plan.
Right, where do they see themselves as far as creating jobs, not just out in the community for military families, but within her own office?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think kind of a strategic plan for both of them to see what is the ultimate vision, where would they want to be, and really, how are they going to get there?
I'd like to hear more about steps to scaling up. And for Boots2Roots, I think that means how do they attract and place more people. They've got a great placement success rate. For MaineWorks, I think that means how do they secure funding? What's the possibility and the potential of securing additional funding to just place more people?
Funding is an issue for both of them. That's what the message was. They need more funding. Okay. All right, we're going to send this off to a break. When we come back, find out who gets the green light.
In 1972, Tom Moser committed his life's work to craft, and 4 decades later employs 70 fine craftsmen and women in our shop in Auburn, Maine. With showrooms and customers from coast to coast and numerous awards and accolades, Tom has firmly established himself as an entrepreneurial tour de force and has proven that a life doing what you love is indeed possible.
Reaching new customers online is hard. You've tried Facebook, Google Ads, email. You even built a website 10 years ago. You're way too busy to focus on digital marketing, and you're not getting results.
At Dream Local Digital, that's what we do. We've helped businesses nationwide grow with online marketing. We're the experts. Let us help you.
Whether you're a small business or a big business, whether you're cutting edge or looking at a traditional industry in a whole new way, whether you're on the coast, in the city, a small town, wherever, if you're an organization here in Maine, if you want to innovate, and if you want to grow, we want to support you. We're the Maine Technology Institute.
MTI is a proud sponsor of Greenlight Maine.
Welcome back to Greenlight Maine. Today we had 2 companies helping people in need of transitioning to a new life. Awesome. But unfortunately, only one can move on. Judges, who gets the green light? Congratulations to Margo from MaineWorks. She is moving on in the competition. That's all the time that we have today. We appreciate all your comments, so please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, you can see all of our episodes online at greenlightmaine.com. We'll see you right back here next week after Meet the Press on News Center Maine. Have a fantastic Sunday. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, nice job.
This episode of Greenlight Maine has been brought to you by Focus Maine, a catalyst to grow select signature industries. Greenlight Maine would not be possible without the support of all of our corporate sponsors. Thank you.
Greenlight Maine has been a paid-for presentation by the Portland Media Group.